Hey, what's going on, everyone? Nick Yuskevich back with Daily Fantasy Winners, bringing you the Valspar Championship for this episode of Tee to Green. And so this is a tournament that is part of the Florida swing again. We are at Innisbrook, the Copperhead course, which is in Palm Harbor, Florida, which is essentially Tampa. And so this is a tournament that usually is kind of a weakish field, but it's been getting kind of quietly stronger over the last year or two, and it's particularly strong this year. There are a lot of guys near the top at the as you'll see, obviously, on DraftKings, FanDuel, or whatever, the player list is Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, Sergio Garcia, Henrik Stenson, Justin Rose, Tiger's playing in it, Paul Casey, Adam Scott, like Tony Finau, Brandon Grace, like all these guys. So we got like a pretty darn good field here. That's about as we're looking at kind of a field that we saw at Riviera, and that's or the Hondas. That's pretty darn good for this. There aren't as many weeks off to get started here in these first few weeks for a lot of these guys to get going as far as the calendar year goes, and they'll slow it down at some of the standard PGA Tour events, I'm sure, once we get into more, the major season and the season kicks into gear, and gotta save up for the FedEx as well. So, but in any case, so this is a pretty good field. We're at Innisbrook, like I said. We'll start off by showing you how this course just kind of plays in terms of difficulty. I just wanted to show you this. Right now I have it filtered an average by... Do I have it filtered by average by par? No, I don't. I was supposed to. There we go. If you filter by the average score by par for the Valspar, you will see right here that is the 6th toughest course on tour. And this is a course that also, if you filter by eagles, you will see that there are the fewest eagles on tour here at this tournament, actually. Or it's tied with the Dean DeLuca Northern Trust, but I believe the decimal points actually go farther than this. It's what's displayed on the website. So I do believe it actually is the fewest once you break it down into the nearest or the smallest decimal point. And then if you filter by birdies here, you'll see the Valspar is actually the 2nd toughest in terms of birdies, the 2nd fewest birdies made. And then, but if you see by pars, and now I'm going to filter by most amount of pars, the Valspar has the 3rd most pars. So there are a ton of pars out here, a decent amount of bogeys. It's like top 10 in bogeys, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's like right here, about top 10 in bogeys or so, and then a little bit around the same for doubles or more and everything like that. So a lot of pars here, and then some bogeys as well. Pretty tough golf course, actually. A little bit tighter of a track, certainly. There isn't like the Honda where there's water everywhere, but and it's not completely flat like most Florida courses. There's a little bit more. This golf course is a little bit more in like kind of the woods. You get a lot of heavy tree-lined fairways that are a little bit narrower fairways, and then you'll get obviously a little more elevation in this golf course as well than you would a normal Florida course. It's not huge elevation, but it's just it's a little bit more where it goes up and down and type of thing. So in any case, so that's really all I've got as far as looking into the golf course. This is a tougher track. Length's not important, as I just showed you for the Eagles, so that because there's not going to be very many at all. Even as far as like the way the top of the leaderboard usually goes here. Driving distance is not a thing here at all. Accuracy, a very tiny correlation. It ain't much. It's a tiny bit. Even though it is a pretty tight golf course, it's just doesn't really show up that much. The strokes gained approaching the green pops up here big time. That's not like a surprise for Florida golf courses usually, even though that this course is a little bit different than the others. Ball striking usually is almost always a particularly heavy premium on Florida style courses where accuracy is a little more important off the tee and everything like that. So just why I point that out. And so we'll just get right on in here to the top golfers. And so got quite a few of them this week. And when I saw these prices and the player list here and just everything like that, my gut instinct here in just looking at all this is that I don't think there's any of these guys near the top is going to be particularly highly owned. And actually, DraftKings has done a better job this week. It's still not great, but it's better than what they've done as far as getting the odds per dollar more accurate this week. They've done a decent job here. And I'll just kind of show you, if just follow along the DK odds per dollar column right here, the 3rd from the right. And you'll just see here, it's not as scrambled as it normally is. We get a lot of 2s here pretty well in order, a couple 1s here and a 2, but it's like you'll see here that maybe like a couple guys are out of order, but this is usually way more jumbled or scrambled than what I'm showing you right here. It's still not great, but it's better than what it's been. And so it might be a little bit easier to single out some of the guys in the lower 7K range as far as who might jump out for ownership. But the upper 7K, lower 8K range, I don't think we're going to have those like a couple like really obvious guys that are going to jump out as far as ownership, just because, like I said, like it's much more well intact here in the upper 7K range and the lower 8K range. It's much more in line. I'm sure a couple people still will, but it won't be as bad as some previous weeks. But the lower 7K range, there's always like one or two guys that always particularly stand out, and they'll be the same case here. But anyways, dealing with these the most expensive guys, because that's what we want to focus on here for this. I don't think any of them are going to be particularly highly owned, so I wouldn't worry about anything as far as that goes. Normally, I would just say you never need to worry about that unless like somebody's going to be extremely highly owned, which doesn't happen too often. But this is a week I just wouldn't worry about it. As far as which guys I like most, I do like Jordan Spieth and Sergio Garcia the most up here. I'll go into each guy here briefly as far as this goes. So Jordan Spieth starting out with this, it's the same stories every week. The strokes gained putting thing, it's starting to regress positively a little bit. It still has work to do, but it's trying to go in the right direction. He still checks out as let's pull it up here, the strokes gained putting regression tool right here for one Jordan Spieth, and it is still a positive 0.56. We are expecting the regression. As you can see, he is usually gains. We predict him at a 0.24, and actually our model is actually pretty conservative with Jordan when it comes to the putter right now, because we weigh more heavily, a little bit more toward 2017, I believe, or the most previous year than back in like 2014. But you do take a look at this. Jordan Spieth was above a 0.240 actually in every single year from 2014 through 2017. So the model is pretty conservative here for him, and obviously Jordan Spieth's losing strokes to the field pretty decently here so far, and so that's why we've got him at a 0.56. And if our model was just taking a straight average from 14 to 17, obviously that average would probably come out to be like like a 0.5 or something, or for prediction, and then this 0.56 would be like a 0.8 or something. It would be even more of a positive regression it would be showing. So Jordan Spieth, yeah, so that's good. All the other statistics continue to look really good for Spieth. Jordan Spieth, he is, again, 6th tee to green, 29th off the tee, 22nd in approaching the green, 4th around the green. I mean, there is just not a hole in his game. Right now, the driving accuracy for Spieth is about middle of the road. That's usually standard for him. That's fine for here. I really wouldn't honestly focus on the driving accuracy too much here, unless somebody's like 200th. This isn't like a golf course you can just spray it anywhere you want. But as long as you're not completely pitiful, it should be just fine here. And so, I mean, even actually, to be honest, or actually that's a different metric. But anyways, so actually, and like even like Luke List, I'll just point this out, like he's 190th in driving accuracy, and he lost in a playoff at the Honda Classic, and that's usually a course where you have to you can't be like spraying it everywhere because there's water, and so even like Luke List did fine with it. So honestly, driving accuracy very rarely comes up, honestly, in the statistical correlations and things like that, and so I just really wouldn't worry about it too much, to be honest. Strokes gained approaching the green is always a good thing to look at as far as how someone's playing. And by the way, I'll also throw this in here just as we go back to the odds per dollar. Like the only thing I don't like about Spieth here this week is just his price. And like Spieth should be the favorite this week. There's no doubt about it. But Jordan Spieth's like price recently in the previous weeks has been more actually like in the lower 11K range or like the 10K range. And right now, because Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas essentially are not in this field right now, Jordan Spieth is getting bumped up to 11.8K. And so, it's kind of one of those things where, yeah, okay, the top two guys aren't in the field, but Spieth's basically getting a price jump without getting the payback for continuing to play him. So like right now, you for the people who've been sticking around and playing Jordan Spieth on a continuous basis here, like you would like if this price jump is going to come, you want to see Spieth win, or you want to see him at least get like second or third. Spieth's playing really well. He's still finishing like top 10, top 20, but he's not giving you that top 2, top 3 what you would normally see this price jump come from. And so that's a little, this it's really not the greatest thing in the world, but at the same time, like it's not like I would not say that should turn you away from playing him. I would continue to ride the Spieth train because the statistics all say he should be having a pretty good performance here soon. And then I will just pull up here Spieth just because of the recent performance, the course history for Spieth. If you care, he did win here back in 2015. He actually didn't play here last year, so he played every year from 2013 to 2017. Like I said, he won in 2015. His best finishes after that are T7 in 2013, T18 in 2016, and T20 in 2014. So he's never finished worse than top 20 here at this event, and he's won here once, where he won in a playoff versus Patrick Reed. He drained a really long putt, if I remember correctly, in that one. So in any case, so I like Spieth. Just the price is a little annoying, but whatever. I think that's fine. Rory McIlroy. These next few guys, Rory, Sergio, and Stenson, none of them are qualifying yet for the strokes gained statistics. Rory is getting close. He still only has 9 measured rounds because he didn't play in the WGC last week, and so we're going to get there soon with Rory. Hopefully before the Masters. We should get there before the Masters. I don't know his exact schedule, but in any case, if you do just take a look at Rory's statistics, not the rankings because the rankings aren't there yet, but the statistics of themselves for the strokes gained. Rory right now strokes gained off the tee, 0.635, very strong. Strokes gained approaching the green, minus 0.359. That's really bad for Rory, and that's absolutely concerning. Strokes gained around the green, a minus 0.075. So he's about average, which is fine. Like, that's usually a high variance statistic anyway, so it's whatever. But the strokes gained putting for Rory, which is what everybody criticizes him for, or that's probably his weakest part of this game, usually, at least over the last handful of years. Strokes gained putting, again, in only 9 measured rounds, so it's a very small sample, but strokes gained putting, 0.334 gain. So he's actually gaining a decent amount of strokes on the field putting right now. So that's a little concerning, that the fact that the strokes gained approaching the green is actually really the thing that's been holding him back here, at least so far in these couple of PGA Tour events. And if you go back even into the... again, if you go back to the European events, it was like Rory's putter really wasn't like awful in those events at all. Like, his putter was working fine. So I think Rory's putter's fine if there was ever any real concern about him for it, or went through a little funk with that, with switching putters around and everything. But what I don't like about Rory is the strokes gained approach in the green, even though it's a small sample size. Again, if you're making a bunch of GPP lineups, I would not suggest fading him. I would not suggest really necessarily fading any of these guys, maybe one of them. But if you're just making, again, 1 or 2 GPP lineups, or you're just making a cash lineup, I would not go the Rory McIlroy route. That strokes gained approach in the green is just concerning a little bit. If I would like Rory more if the strokes gained approach in the green was great and the strokes gained putting was like bad on a small sample. So, but that's not the case. So, yeah, I'd probably look elsewhere on Rory. But if you're making GPP lineups, like a bunch of them, then yeah, you can include him a little bit. I think that's perfectly fine, of course. Moving on to Sergio, again, has not quite qualified for the strokes gained stats. He only has 8 measured rounds. Really like what I see with Sergio statistically, because I mentioned I do like him and Spieth the most. Strokes gained off the tee, 0.303. Approaching the green, 1.385. That would basically be right there at the top for strokes gained approach in the green. At the top of the standings, or very close to it. I'm not exactly sure, but it's got to be right there at the top. Strokes gained around the green, as far as the chipping goes and all that, minus 0.307. So he's behind on that, but again, 8 measured rounds, high variance statistic. Whatever. And strokes gained putting, 0.191. So slightly gaining strokes putting. And Sergio usually not, the greatest putter historically, but he's not that's not like he's running super hot at 0.191. But what I really like to see, of course, is that the ball striking is very good right now. And that's what you obviously want to see with Sergio Garcia. And he won the event, I think it was the Singapore Open, I believe, before he came over here to the States to play here in the European, or in the Florida events. So that's obviously a good sign that, Sergio does have a little bit of good recent performance as far as that goes. And so, yeah, Sergio seems perfectly fine here to me at 10,900. Maybe like the slightest bit expensive, but not. I mean, it's whatever. It might be like a few $100. Obviously, a little bit better value on DraftKings, as you can see, being $12K on FanDuel, and you get $1,100 difference here between FanDuel and DraftKings. And so, Sergio, I think he's a pretty good option here for you in cash or GPPs. Henrik Stenson. He will be the guy that is probably the lowest owned of these top 5. I will be shocked if he is above 10%, actually. He has not played an event on the PGA Tour yet this calendar year, in 2018, that is. He played in Tiger's tournament in 2017, which is actually technically not a PGA Tour event that's counted for all the statistics, I believe. And then I'm not sure about before that. He probably played in something. No, it's all European, it looks like, for him in 2017. So no, he actually just hasn't played a PGA Tour event, period, as far as the statistics are concerned in this whole season. So if you do take a look at Stenson, He finished tied for 60th at the Maybank Championship, and then before that, he finished tied for 6th at Dubai, 8th at Abu Dhabi, 17th at the Hero World. That's a very small field, obviously. That's back in December, and then he's a T35 at the Turkish, and then a T2 at the HSBC way back in November, and so whatever. But so Stenson's form is fine. The one thing I really don't like for Stenson here is just that his last competitive event is December 31st. That was the Maybank event over in the European Tour event. So he has had a little more than a month off as far as his competitive schedule goes, which isn't always my favorite thing to find. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's always something I kind of take note of. And he has nothing strokes gained statistics to go off of, even like as you say, has no measured rounds to go off of, and so it's not that great of a thing. So if you're into playing, if you are going to play several GPPs, I don't think you're going to need to own much Stenson to have like more ownership in the field. Like I think it's going to be in that 5 to 10% range. That would be my guess for Stenson. So if you're going to make, if you just want to make like 10 GPP lineups and you want to throw Stenson in 2 of them, I think that's a perfectly fine option, just given the fact of the lower ownership. But I will say that it's a slight concern that he's got a little more than a month off, and he's probably playing a little bit more of a condensed schedule. Maybe now that he's getting up there, maybe a little bit in age, and he's had some injury issues, and he wants to be healthy for the major. So this might be just a little bit more of a tune-up for him. Obviously, not to suggest he would try, of course, but he might be playing a little bit more of a condensed schedule and everything, and so. And for what it's worth, I will just throw this in here. Stenson, though, has played very well at this event. He's played here 3 times. He's played here the last 3 years with a T7, a T11, and a 4th. That might, the ownership, I don't think that's going to affect the ownership too much, just because everybody here near the top has played well here, or it's their first time playing in this event. Like, this is Rory's first time playing in this event, actually, for whatever that's worth. I don't think it's a big deal for Innisbrook. This isn't a course I don't think you need to have a ton of course knowledge on, or course history advantage on. So just throw that in there. But in any case, yeah, Stenson, I think he would be worth a couple lineups and GPPs if you're making 10 lineups or something, type of a thing. So anyways, but still not one of my favorites. Wouldn't do it in cash, and wouldn't do it in your main, if you're just doing 1 or 2 GPPs. And then Justin Rose, lastly, I will say that the one thing that really concerns me about Rose is the strokes gained approaching the green. He is 179th in strokes gained approaching the green. That's not good, and he is qualifying for PGA, the strokes gained statistics. He has played enough events now, and I believe he just qualified after playing in the WGC Mexico last week. I think that got him to the qualification, if I remember correctly. But anyways, his statistics are 66th tee to green, 9th off the tee, and 179th approaching the green. So I really don't like that 179th approaching the green. 49th in strokes gained around the green, and he's 63rd in strokes gained putting. Our model for Justin Rose in terms of strokes gained putting has him at a minus 0.24. Rose is usually a slightly below average putter, if I remember correctly. Pull up Rose here on the strokes gained putting regression tool. We have him at a minus 0.240, and we predict him literally to be 100% average, not gain or lose any kind of strokes on the field here, and that's with a good sample size, obviously, for Justin Rose. And so Rose is running actually in his few PGA Tour events slightly hot with the putter, and his strokes gained approaching the green is pretty darn bad. So a little bit of a similar category here actually to Rory as far as that goes. And Rose's performance, as far as the straight-up results go, has been a little bit better than Rory's, just as of late, with the T37 last week, which wasn't that great, but then T8 at the Farmers Insurance, T22 at Abu Dhabi, and then he was tied for 5th at the Hero World. That's actually not that much different than Rory's. I should take that back slightly. It's about the same, because Rory's got a T59 at the Honda, T20 at the Genesis. He missed the cut at Pebble with that 5-putt, and then he finished 2nd at Dubai and then 3rd at Abu Dhabi. So I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. It's probably roughly the same, but kind of the same similar story here for Rose in comparison to Rory. So I probably actually lean a little bit away from Justin Rose, but the same thing as far as GPPs go. If you're making a bunch, throw them in a couple. But again, like I said, Spieth and Garcia I like the most, and I think it's pretty well documented why. It's because of the ball striking and a little bit of the regression, certainly with the putting that's to be expected from Spieth. And so one thing you can do, I will just say this is a much stronger field here this year, and it's not just here at the top. It's actually from the middle tier and even to the upper 7K range. It's it's a pretty strong like group of people to choose from when you're talking about guys like Paul Casey, obviously Tiger, Finau, Moore, Woodland, Hadwin, Scott, like all these guys down here. Like, we even got guys like Schneider, Jans Reed, and Zach Johnson, Bill Haas. Like, all these guys here, obviously, are guys you'd see usually, like, in a weak PGA Tour tournament. Like, you know, usually these are guys that are up in that, like, 9K range at least. And so, yes, this field is stronger, obviously, so that's why they're priced a little bit lower. But it's not like there's a huge drop-off in talent here between this upper 7K range and even this 9K range. Like, it's not that big of a drop-off, really, at all. So, I kind of bring this up that this is actually probably, if anything, a pretty good week to probably go with that balanced salary method if you elect not to go with Jordan Spieth in your lineups, or you just want to go Spieth and then all mid 7K on DraftKings. That's fine as well. But if you, this is perfectly fine week if you want to start off. Like, I like Paul Casey this week. I'll just throw him in there. Like, it's going to be kind of the same thing with Casey. Very good ball striking, very good tee to green. Just obviously the putter needs to wake up for him a little bit, and he is our putting regression tool model has him regressing positively to a .31 right now, so off to a slow start with the putter this year. And so yeah, like I think this is a good week. You could go with guys like Paul Casey and Adam Scott and kind of load up on a couple of those guys there in that range as far as the 9 and 8 and, you know, upper 7K range goes. I think it's a good week to do it, particularly GVPs. And so in any case, we're wrapping up here. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching again. As usual, I am at Nick Yuskevich on Twitter. Daily Fantasy Winners is on Twitter at DFantasyWinners, and very much always appreciate the likes to the YouTube videos and the subscriptions as well. All right, good luck, everyone.